Football fans have always had their favorite scapegoats, right? Quarterbacks who can't get it done in the clutch, wide receivers who drop passes in big moments, cornerbacks who get torched on national television. But there's a growing group within the football world, the analytics community. Yes, it's real, and it's growing. That's got a completely different enemy. And that enemy is not a player. It's not a blown call from the refs. It's the punt. Or more specifically, what they've now dubbed the cowardly punt. That phrase alone tells you everything you need to know. Now let's be clear. This isn't just some quirky nickname. This has become a full-blown metric. A whole system. A measurable stat with charts, percentages, rankings, and even a beautifully ruthless thing called the surrender index. And once you hear what that index had to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers' recent decision against the Seahawks, you might start to question whether the black and gold are playing to win or just playing not to lose. So let's rewind the tape. It's the third quarter. The game's tied at 14. Fourth down and just one single yard to go. And the Steelers are sitting at their own 48-yard line. Now, in today's NFL, where aggressive play calling has become more the norm, this is the kind of moment where bold coaches put the foot on the gas. Will you trust your offensive line to move a pile? Will you line up and tell the other team, we're better than you, and we're going to prove it right here? But instead, what do we see? Out comes the punt unit. Just like that. Ball handed over, momentum surrendered. And that's where the surrender index went off. That one single punt, 4th and 1, tied game, just over a minute left in the third quarter, registered a 6.48 on the surrender index scale. That puts in the 91st percentile of cowardly punts for the entire 2025 season. Even more brutal, it lands in the 88th percentile of all punts since 1999. Yeah, you heard that right. In the last quarter century of football, this one ranks as one of the softest punts ever recorded, statistically speaking. And this isn't just about hurting pride. This isn't about bruised egos or sports talk theatrics. This is about cold, hard numbers, real outcomes. Analytics doesn't care if you've been coaching for 20 years. It doesn't care if you're a player's coach or if you give great locker room speeches. All it does is measure probabilities, what happens when you go for it versus what happens when you punt. And time again, it proves that punting in these situations is just flat-out bad strategy. Now, of course, Mike Tomlin was asked about the decision after the game. And to no one's surprise, he defended it. He talked about how neither offense was doing much at the time, how his defense was tired and had dealt with some injuries, and how he wanted to play the field position game. The classic conservative coach's response. But here's the problem with that line of thinking. You don't need your offense to be lighting it up to gain one single yard. And if you're not afraid of the other team's offense either, if you think they're not lighting it up, then what's the worst that happens? You fail, they get the ball near midfield, and you still trust your defense to hold. But this is exactly what the analytics movement has been screaming about for years. These aren't emotional decisions, even though they get framed that way. These are mathematical decisions. This is about putting yourself in the best possible position to win based on thousands of similar scenarios that have played out across the league. And here's the truth. When it's 4th and 1 near midfield in a tie game, you go for it. Full stop. What makes this more frustrating for Steelers fans isn't just the one punt. It's the bigger pattern. There's been this undercurrent with the team lately, a contradiction that's getting harder to ignore. On one hand, you bring in veterans, you stack the roster with guys who are clearly here to win now. It feels like a go-for-it season, like the front office is pushing chips into the middle of the table. But on the field, we see hesitation. We see caution. We see symbolic leashes put on players who should be taking over games. Take the passing game. How many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers let it rip downfield this season? Better question, how many times do we think he wants to? But if your offensive line can't hold blocks, if your protection breaks down too quickly, you're not going to take those deep shots. So why not make a change? Why not swap your left tackle if he's underperforming? Why not shake things up and show the rest of the league that you're not going to settle for mediocrity? It's the same story on the defensive side. Where's the edge? Where's the bite? Where's the identity? Great defenses aren't just built on talent. They're built on energy, risk-taking, and a willingness to punch first. But what we've seen so far feels tentative, passive, like the team is hoping for wins instead of seizing them. And let's talk about the tush-push for a second. You know, that signature quarterback sneak the Eagles have turned into an unstoppable weapon? The Steelers haven't even attempted it. Not in camp, not in the preseason, not in the games. In fact, the only time Pittsburgh's name has been associated with the tush-push was when they tried to get it banned. Banned. That alone says a lot. It suggests fear of innovation, fear of change, fear of looking silly, trying something new. So when you pair all that with a decision like punting on fourth and one in a tie game, the optics aren't great. It doesn't matter how many speeches you give about not living in fear. When the moment comes and you back down, fans notice. And even worse, players notice. Because they're on the field risking everything, playing through injuries, grinding every day in practice, and they expect their coach to match that energy when the lights are on. And look, nobody's saying you go full video game mode and go for it on every fourth down. But the league is changing. More coaches are trusting the data. More coaches are embracing the risk because they understand the reward. College football's been ahead of the curve on this. Even high school teams have figured it out. But the NFL still clings to tradition, to hierarchy, to reputations. And as long as that continues, we're going to keep seeing moments like this. Moments where logic is sacrificed for comfort and the game is handed back to the opponent. And here's the thing. This goes beyond just one decision in one game. This is about culture, about mindset, about whether you're truly trying to win or just trying not to lose. And unfortunately for the Steelers, that cowardly punt said a lot more about the team than any press conference ever could. The truth is, this version of the Steelers doesn't just feel overly cautious, it feels conflicted. Like a team that talks about toughness and aggression, but plays with the handbrake on. It's like watching someone build a muscle car and then refuse to take it out of the driveway. And that's what's driving fans insane right now. Because you look at the roster, you look at the veterans they've brought in, the investments they've made, and you're left wondering, what are they so afraid of? You can't talk about wanting to compete at the highest level and then coach like you're just trying to survive the next series. You can't claim this is a win-now roster and then call plays like it's year one of a rebuild. And the fan base knows this. They feel it. That hesitation, that lack of belief in your own guys, it trickles down from the top. And whether they say it publicly or not, players feel it too. This idea of playing not to lose might protect you from criticism in the short term. It might buy you a few favorable headlines about being responsible or protecting your defense. But long term, it doesn't win championships. Playing scared doesn't create legacies. What creates legacies is the opposite. Going for it, trusting your guys, saying, this is our moment, and making the other team stop you. And that's the heart of the frustration right now in Pittsburgh. Because people aren't mad over just one punt. They're mad because it represents a philosophy that seems to be dominating every aspect of how this team operates. Whether it's the fourth down decisions, the lack of aggressive play calling, or the refusal to adapt mid-game, it all paints the same picture. A team that's more concerned with not being wrong than it is with being great. And when you add that to the kind of locker room we've seen develop recently, one that talks big but hasn't backed it up on the field, it starts to feel hollow. There's been a lot of energy, a lot of sound bites, a lot of excitement about what this defense could be. Words like elite, dominant, and even historic were thrown around before the season. But through 2 games, none of that has materialized. The execution hasn't been there. The schemes have been flat. And opposing offenses aren't just succeeding, they're doing it with swagger. We saw that plain as day with Seattle. They were out there waving towels during Renegade, laughing, rehearsed, ready for the moment. That's not just disrespect, that's confidence. That's what happens when you see a team on the other sideline playing tight, and you decide to let loose. And frankly, it was deserved, because the Steelers gave them no reason to be afraid. You don't build fear by playing safe. You build fear by showing your opponent that you're willing to be bold, willing to push the pace, willing to make them uncomfortable. Right now, this team isn't doing that. It's reacting. It's playing catch-up. It's trying not to mess up instead of forcing mistakes. And that's not who the Steelers are supposed to be. That's not the identity this franchise was built on. And yet, the response from within the organization has been more of the same. Instead of addressing the hesitation, We get vague comments about trust and experience. Instead of adjusting strategies, we get safe explanations wrapped in coach speak. And yeah, some fans have had enough. Because this city isn't wired for moral victories. It's wired for Lombardies. And the fans can smell the difference between a team that's fighting for something and a team that's floating. And to make things worse, there's not even an illusion of urgency. When your head coach talks about wanting to keep the defense on a long field in a tie game at the third quarter winding down, what does that tell you? That he's already playing for the fourth quarter. That he's trying to win later instead of winning now. And that might sound harmless, but in this league, the later never comes if you don't earn it with the decisions you make right now. It's like there's a disconnect between the way this team views itself and the way it's performing. You don't get to call your defense elite just because the names on the jersey are impressive. You have to earn that with results, with stops, with sacks, with takeaways. None of that happens when you're backing off on 4th and short and asking your punter to save the day. And yes, the punter is still part of the game. But the days of using him as your default 4th down plan, those are supposed to be over. Modern football is about calculated risk. It's about using every inch of data available to tilt the field in your favor. That's what the great teams are doing. They're looking at the analytics and they're saying, we've got a 60% chance here. Let's go. They're trusting the process, trusting their linemen, trusting their quarterback, trusting that aggressive football is winning football. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh is out here treating every yard like it's a gamble, like it's safer to punt than to trust your system. But how are you ever going to know what your offense is capable of if you never give them a shot? How are you going to build that identity, that culture of resilience, if the first instinct is to retreat? This team talks about being physical, talks about punching people in the mouth. But right now, it's not walking that talk. The Steelers have become passive, predictable, afraid to lean into the uncomfortable. And that's not just a coaching issue. It's a culture issue. And the longer it stays unaddressed, the harder it becomes to reverse. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are swirling through Pittsburgh's Heinz Field corridors after what insiders are calling one of the most heated locker room exchanges in recent memory. According to sources close to the team, linebacker Patrick Queen allegedly left kicker Chris Boswell utterly humiliated during a fiery confrontation following Sunday's game. Details are sketchy, but the intensity of the exchange has already become the talk of the town. Eyewitnesses describe a tense atmosphere that escalated quickly, with Queen reportedly not holding back a single word. It was a full-blown shouting match, one source said, requesting anonymity. You could feel the entire locker room freeze. People were staring, unsure if someone would storm out or if this would end in an all-out brawl. Allegedly, Queen's words cut deep, leaving Boswell visibly shaken, something teammates say is rare for the usually composed kicker. While the trigger for the argument remains unclear, speculation is rampant. Some insiders hint it was tied to a missed field goal that cost Pittsburgh crucial points, while others suggest long-standing tensions between the players finally boiled over. These guys are competitors, and pressure can make even the strongest personalities clash, a staff member explained. But what happened in there was on another level. Social media is already ablaze with reactions, with fans picking sides and dissecting every snippet of information leaking from the locker room. Memes, hot takes, and speculation have dominated forums, with many suggesting that this incident could affect team dynamics moving forward. Analysts are asking whether the clash is a one-off outburst or the beginning of a deeper rift within the squad. Neither Queen nor Boswell has commented publicly, and the team's official channels have remained tight-lipped, fueling the rumor mill even further. Still, insiders say the tension was palpable long after the locker room incident, with teammates reportedly struggling to mediate the fallout. As Pittsburgh prepares for its next game, all eyes will be on how, or if, these two key players reconcile, and whether the alleged humiliation in the locker room will leave a lasting mark on the team's cohesion. For now, the city is buzzing. The whispers won't die down, and the Steelers' locker room drama has already become a headline that refuses to fade. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.